What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bucco Territory on the Foul Territory Podcast Network. I am Noah Hiles, and as always, joining me are Josh Harrison, aka J.A., and Platinum Key, aka Mark. Another week, fellas, to talk some Bucco baseball. And today's show, unlike other ones where we try to cover a lot of ground, we're going to hit a big topic. It's a one-topic show, and it's a very relevant topic to really everyone on this call and everyone who's followed, or everyone on this recording, not call, I should say, and everyone who's followed Pirates baseball for quite some time. It's, will Andrew McCutchen be a Pirate in 2026? Andrew McCutchen obviously means a lot to this franchise. He means a lot to fans like Mark. He means a lot to, people like me who grew up watching him as a kid and had the privilege of covering him over his last stretch here in Pittsburgh, where he's given me a lot of good quotes and a lot of time and everything for interviews. And then he's obviously meant a lot to the guy in the middle of the screen as a teammate and a close friend throughout the front half of his career, really. So a lot of good points I'm sure will be made here. But guys, let's look at the situation at hand. There's about a month. Actually, I believe it's exactly 1 month from now is the first day pitchers and catchers will be made available to the media at spring training. So there's 1 month between the day we're recording this and the start of spring training, and Andrew McCutchen still has no home. He's had a consistent home for the bulk of his career, including each of the last 3 seasons here in Pittsburgh. But you look at the additions they've made over the offseason, they've added some bats. That DH position might look a little filled right now. And you look at where Cutch is in his career. The guy is creeping up toward 40. I would argue he had one of the worst seasons of his career last year, which it still was a fine season. It was about a league average season offensively. But you could argue that he's not exactly where he would probably want to be. I don't think he would be pleased with his production from last season. So, does he fit in here? Will it happen? That's going to be what we discuss today. I'm going to open the floor. We'll start with Mark here. Mark, as a fan, do you want to see Andrew McCutchen back, or are we at a point now where it just simply makes sense for them to spend whatever money's left over elsewhere?
I mean, I absolutely would love to see Andrew McCutchen back in PNC. It wouldn't feel right if this is his last year in MLB if he's not on the Pittsburgh Pirates. The moments that he brings to PNC, I mean, whenever he steps up to the plate, you hear how much he means to the city and to the fan base. And he brings more than also just what he can produce on the field. I think off the field, the guidance, the leadership, especially for a younger ball club like the Pirates, he's invaluable as far as a leader on this club. Now, can you justify that with a limited budget, a limited roster? It starts to become a little bit of a crunch. But I think there's value enough to bring Andrew McCutchen back for 1 more year, even if he's not starting, and have him fill in the outfield at DH and be a leader for these guys.
Josh, I'll ask you this. I mean, do you think Cutch has more to give here? And I know the easy answer is yes. I think he's capable of playing more Major League Baseball, but do you think that he can get back to where he was maybe in 23 or 24? Or is it more realistic to just expect him to be this 15 home run guy who is just going to be DH only moving forward?
Well, that's something that's still going to be, a question needs to be answered because even last year, I want to say the early part of the season, he got called on to play a little bit more outfield than
Yep.
anticipated. And I'm not making an excuse, but at the same time, if you're prepared to do one thing and you have to do something else that's a little bit more strenuous, you're going to have what you would consider, a little bit of fall behind or, a little bit of drop off on, maybe some numbers as you age. But at the same time, for you to sit here and say that his numbers were still average and he had to do more than what he was signed for is a
Yep.
telltale sign that he has more to give. You give a guy like Andrew McCutchen the roadmap of, hey, this is what we need from you, he will give it and do it. But if he has to do more, sometimes that body's not going to recover as much. Right field is just as far of a run from the dugout. Trust me, I played it at PNC. When I had to go to right field, I'm like, dang, man, this is far. It's not an issue when you're 24 or 25, but when you got 16, 17 seasons under your belt, just had your fifth kid, not that he can't do it, but if you're continually asking me to do that and I was trying to, look at DH, I'm gonna have some numbers that drop off just based off of the workload being put on my body. Now, if you expect him to play some outfield and give him that, Cutch is a professional. He's gonna put himself in position to play what he needs to, and that's my skill.
Yeah, I think I have pretty big arguments as to why you would bring him back and why you wouldn't. Um, I want to dive into both of those and get your feedback on both. But before we do, I want to take a quick break here to hear from our show's presenting sponsor. This episode is sponsored by So Many Angels, a nonprofit founded by local photographer Matt Myers that provides free professional photo experiences for children facing cancer and other life-altering medical diagnoses. Their photo sessions are designed to help kids see themselves as strong, confident, and heroic. The next Pittsburgh experience is February 1st, and they're currently looking for families who could benefit. Visit SoManyAngels.org to learn more, share the link, or find ways to support this incredible Pittsburgh nonprofit. That's SoManyAngels.org. All right. So why should they not bring back Andrew McCutchen? That's how I'm going to start here. You look at his baseball savant page. There's a lot of blue on it, right? I mean, the barrel rate is down. The hard hit percentage is down. And my biggest concern with Cutch when I'm looking at all of this is bat speed, right? That's probably the thing that I'd worry about most, because if the bat speed was down this past year, it was in the 34th percentile. He's not getting any younger, right? And it might be able to get to where it needs to be in the front half. But when we're in those dog days of August, what can you really expect from that? Now, you could contend that you have a little bit more depth and you can get him the rest that he might require to keep those metrics where they need to be. And we'll get into that side of the argument. But just on its surface, you're looking at a guy who, like I said, I think when you look at his full body of work, that was probably his least productive season as a big leaguer. And when that happens at age 38, it's hard to justify bringing someone back, just on paper, right? I think another argument that can be made as to why you wouldn't bring him back is, where does he fit, right? It's hard to justify giving him that DH spot full time when it could go to Brian Reynolds or Ryan O'Hearn. I think I'd rather probably have both of those bats in the lineup over his. Mm-hmm. And what's made it difficult for Andrew McCutchen over the last couple of years, I would say, is his inability to really play elsewhere. I mean, I think that's partially on the Pirates for not giving him the heads up to say, hey, we expect you to play this amount of games in the field. If he had known that, well, I think in 2024, he's coming off the injury in 2023. So that's how it kind of started. But going into this year, I don't think there was ever really a clear expectation that he would have to be ready physically to play in the field. But certain things happened, obviously, in the beginning of the year, and he was kind of called upon to play a little bit more in the field than expected. And I thought he held his own in April and May. If you look, I mean, his numbers, he was their most productive hitter in that stretch. And even the advanced metrics, you look under the hood, I mean, he was getting robbed of a lot of hits. The exit velocity was really good.
I was about to say, he I think he was like second or third as far as like unluckiest, or he had the best defense played against him last year. So there's justifications for why his numbers look down. But
yes, but then I think you saw him really start to run out of gas because, it's like when you're running a marathon and you start the first half of the marathon at a faster pace, you're going to be burned out a little bit.
Slow down a little bit, right?
Yeah, so you have to worry about that durability, where he fits into the lineup, all of those things. The final thing that I would be concerned about is just the money element of it. If you only have $10 million left to spend, are you going to give half of it to this guy? And someone who, might not be an everyday player for you, someone who doesn't have a ton of positional flexibility, or would you be better off to find some positional versatility elsewhere and spend more of that money on a pitcher?
Well, the money thing is interesting. What did he sign for last year? $5 million, I believe.
Yeah.
And I know money is
one over, 5 over 1 the last 3 off seasons. So.
Okay. So I know money is always going to be an issue, something tight with the Pirates, but just to go off, I know you just ran off some metrics and things, but it also goes back to where we said some of those numbers, he was unlucky. But the sample size in April and May shows that he still has value in that bat when fresh. But at the same time, I don't think you can really, as you said, Mark, invaluable. It's hard to put a
Hmm.
price on if he's not there, who is the leader for the position players? Yes, you've made these nice moves to, you know, strengthen your lineup and lengthen it, but who's going to be that position player that's going to help these guys, take that next step? Um, and if you can find somebody that's going to replace that, I think it would have been done a long time ago. But for one, what he means to the city, if there's a way to bring him back, I think with the moves that you've made, it allows his team to take that step a little bit closer. And I think it's kind of cool what way to reignite a city with a guy that was able to reignite it some years ago and help the city get back to, the winning ways that they expect. And the metrics don't really bother me because, as I said, given, the opportunity to know what you're expecting, he's going to produce. But when you're called upon to do more, sometimes you might, backslide in other areas. But I don't know if you're going to have somebody that'll be able to make an impact with this city and this team the way that he has if you're really going to, try to make this thing work.
All right. Mark, do you have anything to add on that, or can I go into why they should sign him now?
Yeah, I would just say, I guess, well, my point's why they should sign him. So, yeah, why don't you get into
Okay.
that?
Okay, so I have a couple of things as to why they should sign him. First things first, depth matters, right? I mean, they're looking for, at this point, a guy who can hit 10 to 15 home runs, and Andrew McCutchen can do that if you give him 400 at bats. He just will.
Hmm.
And so there's the first thing there. And I mean, the fact that you can get that for 5 million, maybe even less if he wants to come at a discount. I don't know if you're going to be able to find that elsewhere. And you're not going to
Right.
find too many people who want to come here, probably more than he
Right.
does.
Yeah.
So the depth element of it is there, where if you look at the full roster right now, it's hard to see where he fits in. But no team goes without injury throughout a 162 game season. And whenever someone inevitably goes down, it's a lot easier to just slot him into the everyday DH role because the rest of this lineup is so versatile as far as position
Hmm.
flexibility goes.
Listen.
You can move Horwitz over to second or Lau over to somewhere, or you could put so many different guys in the outfield. Then whatever you got to do, that
Yeah.
clears up a spot to be your everyday DH. And one of those injuries is inevitably going to happen early in the year, if not spring training. So it might not be as complicated of a lineup puzzle as some people think. Um, as far as what Cutch actually brings, aside from just depth and debunking the idea of, oh, there's no place for him, they're looking for a right-handed bat. That's what he brings. I already mentioned the power. Another thing that I think people haven't really discussed a ton is you should partially be building your team around ABS, right? And this guy
Mm,
has one of the best eyes
the best.
in Major
Yeah.
League Baseball. And every year in his career, especially these last few where he's become a little bit of a more patient hitter, I think, just because he knows that's the greatest strength to his game is understanding the strike zone. He's probably going to get a few more walks that he did not get in recent years simply because he has the ability to challenge blown calls now.
Right.
Where, back in the day, Josh has seen that look he gives all the time. When there it is.
Back at
Yeah,
the
he
dugout.
gives
Yeah.
that. Yes, he gives it, and then he slowly will walk away, and then he just knows. And he's right, like 95%
Oh
of the
yeah.
time, he's right. And so you're going to get a guy who will bring up the team's on base percentage. You're going to get a guy who gives a little bit more from the right side of the plate, who can give you a little bit more slug. Someone who can lengthen the lineup too. If he's on this year's team, as opposed to the last few teams, you're not asking this guy to bat leadoff or second or third or cleanup. This is someone that if he was on their team now, he might be batting seventh. He might be batting eighth. And for Andrew McCutchen to see his name in those spots in the lineup, it might be, surreal for all of us, right? Like he's never been a bottom third of the lineup hitter. But if that guy is batting in the bottom third of your lineup, he can provide a lot different things than what you've been asking him to do, like in 2024 when they moved him to lead off to
Hmm.
try to provide a spark, or in 2025 when they had him in the middle third. I think if you were to sit him down and say, hey, we're going to bat you seventh, we're going to ask you to be even more patient, to get on base, and to maybe just focus on that element of your game. And that way, when the lineup turns over, you're standing on first base. I think that is more value than what you can get. And it's interesting that he's in this situation because I wrote something on him at the end of the 2024 season about how he takes pride in being able to execute in different spots of the order. When they tell him, hey, you're batting leadoff, he prepares differently. And so I think he is a guy where if you move him back, he could probably adequately handle that challenge better than some other guys who are going to have to be moving back in the order because of the additions of Lau and of O'Hearn. So those things all considered, again, the depth is important, the right side, the slug, the knowledge of the strike zone, which will lead to a higher on base percentage. And again, the lesser workload. You're not going to be asking this guy to be your best true right-handed hitter this season. You're going to be asking him to be, you're going to be asking him to essentially be the best hitter in the bottom third of your lineup.
Right.
And I think if structured correctly, Andrew McCutchen can do that. And if you're getting a guy for $5 million who can hit 15 home runs, play 100 games, and bat seventh for you and have an above league average on base percentage, that might be worth $5 million at this point in the season.
And one point I would like to just kind of follow up with you on there, Noah, is the depth. I mean, look at who he would be replacing on the bench right now. So you have one of either Davis or Bart, depending on who's catching. Probably Garcia or Mangum, depending on who's starting in left field. And then you have Sawinski and Nick York, possibly, as your other bench.
So the way it would look is there are 13 position players. You're going to have Barton Davis at catcher. You're going to have your 7 infielders would be O'Hearn, Horowitz, Gonzalez, Lau, Gonzalez, Lau,
Triolo.
Horowitz, Triolo, and then maybe Griffin. Or
Right.
if you want to if you don't want to start Griffin in the major league season, then that spot goes to Cutch. And then you have Garcia, Mangum, Reynolds, and Cruz. And then maybe Garcia doesn't start. So, I mean, you have a couple of rookies. There's definitely space for him to make the team out of camp. And if he doesn't perform, then you address that issue how you have to address that issue. But you can make the team out of camp, and you have enough position versatility to kind of adjust to him just only being able to play DH. It's once Garcia and Griffin are here full time.
Right.
Now you're getting into a sense. But then is everyone healthy at that
There's
point?
the injured list.
There's so many variables there.
Yeah, but that once is that is a hope and a prayer. You don't know when that once they are there is going to happen. But other thing I see too, as you say, looking for a right-handed bat. When the lefty's on the mound, he can spell some of those guys if they're in a stretch where, oh man, we don't want him to quite face this lefty. We know what Cutch does to lefties.
Yep.
And I think, even if O'Hearn is going to be the DH, it might be a situation where O'Hearn is a lefty on the mound. You go play first today, to spell Horowitz or whatever the case. And then Cutch is slotting in, or it might be a situation. I know Mangum switch hits, but, it's situations where, baseball is all about matchups in today's games,
Yep.
And Cutch has been through a lot of different eras, as you mentioned, batting in the top third, middle third, bottom third. He's been able to make those adjustments. And sometimes having a guy on the team that you can plug, trust me, I was a guy that you were able to plug here and there. Not that Cutch was ever like that, but now that, he's, as you said, making those adjustments, that's very valuable, especially somebody that's the moment's not going to be too big for him.
All right, so as we wrap this up, let's go through. We'll make our prediction. Is Andrew McCutchen a Pirate in 2026? We'll start with Mark.
I think so. I think so. I want to believe it. I want to see it. Make it happen. Let's go. I think so.
Josh?
Yep. Yes. Gotta be.
Noah?
I'll be different. I'll say no. Yeah. I think there is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's a greater chance of it happening now than I believed there to be a month ago, right? When they first acquired O'Hearn, I thought there's no way. But just looking at where they are now in this point in the offseason, I think it could make sense. I wouldn't be shocked if they go to spring training without him. And if he's not signed halfway through spring training, maybe they bring him in then, and they let him kind of start the year, give him some ramp up time to go play in like Altoona for a week or something, and then get him going. I don't know. I just think that if he's still around, if he doesn't get picked up elsewhere by the start of March, I think there's a good chance he could be. But I think they might still be looking elsewhere, and he might not be their primary option. I think it would be a good story for Andrew to finish his career here, especially if they were to have success in 2026. I think that'd be great. I think that's the ending everyone deserves. Cutch, the Pirates organization, fans. I'm not exactly sure if it's going to happen, but as someone who tells baseball stories for a living, I would like to see it happen. So,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's definitely, wishful thinking. We don't know what's going to happen. But as you said, made valid points as to why it could happen, but also made valid points as to why it couldn't. But
absolutely.
it's one of those things where only time will tell. And you even made a good point there going into spring training. I'm not speaking anything, nothing that I know, but I mean, he just had another baby. That's also things where, he's got a lot of things on his plate where he's like, you know what? Pirates, do what you need to do because I'm here, that could be a situation too. So that could just kind of help both of them because as you said, there's still probably some moves that the Pirates are looking to make. And both of them, if he's chilling, like, hey, all right, I'm ready to go. But at the same time, as we say, only time will tell.
All right. Any final words before we wrap this one up?
Nope.
Hit that subscribe button. I know we're
Yeah,
That's what
close.
I wanted to
close.
I
do.
was gonna say this is yeah. I was gonna say no, we're close. Definitely appreciate the support.
Yes, hit that subscribe button. As we were recording this, I believe we're only like 10 away from our goal. And the goal
Let's
doesn't stop
go.
there. Once we get to
Right,
1,000, we're
right.
going to keep asking you to subscribe. We want to get to 10 million. So, we could use all the support we need right now. Some of us could definitely use some support, a little bit more than others. So we'll leave it at that. Big thank you to everyone. Real quick, I want to thank everyone who did reach out over the past week. That absolutely means a lot. Don't want to talk a ton more about everything that's going on here in Pittsburgh. But thank you to everyone who reached out to me over the past week. And thank you to my two co-hosts for holding down the fort and for their kind words on our last episode. So we'll wrap it up there. Big thanks, as always, to everyone who tunes in and who will keep tuning in to another episode of Bucco Territory, which is coming next week. He's, or later this week, I should say.
Yeah.
He's Josh Harrison, a.k.a. Jay Hay. He's Platinum Key, a.k.a. Mark. We will see you around soon here on Bucco Territory.